Shalom, Israel. I want you guys to let this be a sobering reminder that a people will always become a reflection of whoever is leading them. This is basic psychology. This is how people are wired. All right. This is why so much money and resources and time is put into psychology and into propaganda, into movies and all of these different systems of indoctrinations and programming, mind control, and so forth. Right. So, whether it's a king, a queen, right, a president, a prime minister, right, a governor, a mayor, a coach, a father or a mother, a big brother, a big sister, right? A foster parent, whoever it is, all right? The spirit at the head filters down into the people. This is how always how it is, all right? The spirit, it flows down, all right? The same way the spirit of among the righteous, the spirit of our Father flows down to Yahweh Shai. And then from Yahweh Shai flows down to us. You see how that works? Because we look up, right, at Yahweh Shai, and he looks up at the Father, and we all look up at the Father, right? And because we follow Yahweh Shai, we are under the spirit of Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of our Father. This is the way it works in the family, though. Who is the head? That's whose spirit you're going to take on. That's who you're going to learn from. That's who you're going to be able to mimic. That's who's going to influence who you are and who you become. You're going to take on their traits. You are going to become the product of their teachings, their guidance, or their lack thereof. This is what we know and understand. So, it amazes me how we seem to forget this or lose this understanding, right, when it comes to other things. All right, we stop applying it all across the board in order to protect the the delicate sensibilities and feelings of certain classes of people who desire to be viewed as untouchable and beyond reproach. All right. We all know that there are certain people that you can't talk about. All right, without being shamed for. They have certain terms that they use to try to stop you from talking about them, stop you from addressing them, stop you from exposing, their flaws. Right? We all know the group of people we're talking about. Right? There's another group of people who who fall under this same type of vibe, the same energy, the same mindset. All right. And again, if we're thinking critically, we all know who that is also, right? So, we're about to go into this, right? True. We'll get a precept upon precept and, with some insightful commentary. And we're gonna look at how leadership, especially spiritual leadership, how it has shaped our people and why we are now in a time of exposing, as our Father told us that we would be, and we're correcting those who've led us wrong, right? And here's the get you gotcha. Our women have to listen up and come to the front of the class. Come to the front. Ladies, women, mothers, sisters, come to the front. All right. It's time to put your big girl pants on and stomach some criticism. All right. It's time to hear some hard things, but some real things because nothing ever changes or gets better without addressing them. All right. I have sons and I have daughters. I teach my sons and I teach my daughters. I don't just teach my sons. I want my daughters to get great outcomes in life also. So I have to teach them. I don't just chastise my sons. I want my daughters to become good people also. I want my daughters to get great outcomes. So I don't just hold my sons accountable. I hold my daughters accountable. Hold my wife accountable. I hold myself accountable first and foremost. First and foremost, I take self inventory and I look at myself and say, where are your flaws? When a situation breaks down or a situation goes wrong, I look at inwardly first. All right. It should be the natural thing for people, right? If you're looking at a company and the company fails, you're going to look at the leadership. You're going to look at the ownership. You're going to look at the policies that they had, the way of doing business, right? The management. That's what you're going to look at. All right. When the employees at the bottom are are not doing what they should or what you want from them, you have to look at the management. If you're a CEO of a company right? And you have people who you employ to be supervisors and in places and in positions of power and authority, and the people underneath them are doing a certain thing habitually, instantly there's a problem with management because they wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't something wrong with management. You see, there's something about the management that I have in place that's causing these people to be how they're being, these other workers under them to be how they are, to work how they're working, and to have the work ethic or the quality of work and the shortcuts and the different things that they do that I don't like being done. It's constantly happening and it's happening widespread. It's not just one person here or there. It's all of them. They're all doing this. That tells me it's management. All right. It tells me it's management. I got to address the management. I got to go to the managers and I got to address them. I got to find out what are you guys doing? What are you guys teaching? I got to bring them in. I got to talk to them. I got to investigate. I got to interview. I got to decide if I need new management, which most likely I do. But I got to find out what was it about, the old managers that was a problem, so I don't repeat that. Or I got to see if, well, maybe what if it's a training issue and I can train my new managers in order to get better outcomes, right? See, this is successful headship, how you successfully run a business. And our father in our family business, and he is the same way. He identifies the problems and he has revealed unto me and to many of his sons the problem in his business. All right. And you got to go to the root of a matter in order to fix it. All right. You got to properly diagnose a problem in order to fix it. All right. When someone goes into the hospital, the first thing they do is they bring you in a little room first and they start asking you questions and they start doing diagnostics on you, right? They start taking your blood pressure and this and that and trying to figure out again asking you questions, what's going on with you, what's wrong with you, right? And then they try to find out what's at the root of the problem, and then so that they can go and treat the root instead of just handing you some medicine so that you can feel okay for now, but it's not really helping the problem, right? This is what happens in our communities. We constantly, put band-aids on the situation. We constantly hand out medicine, but we don't go in to cut out the cancer, right? Because it's religious to cut out the cancer because modern day, the modern day cancer in our community are the women. I know that's going to sting, but it is. It's the women. All right. So before I go any further, let's give all praise, honor, and glory to our Father Yahawah, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Waharakak Wadash. Again, I thank you guys for all joining me here today. It's the women. And why do I say that? Because again, we all understand in the black community, we have a gynocracy, all right? Female rulership. We have matriarchy. All right. The women are the heads of the families and the heads of the communities. All right. We know that our enemies set it up this way, but it is what it is now. We can't be sitting here trying to spend all of our time talking about how it's not their fault because our enemies did it. Yeah, we know they did it. Well, what are we going to do about it though? All right. It doesn't matter how the individual got cancer. They got cancer. You got to deal with the cancer, right? You can't spend all your time trying to, you say, well, it's not her fault she got cancer. It's so and so's fault. Okay. How does that help her get better? How does that save her life? Spending all of our time talking about how it wasn't her fault and whose fault it was rather than addressing the problem and helping to remove the cancer. That's what you're supposed to do, right? So, in an effort to save our sisters, to save our daughters, to save our mothers, our aunts, to save our people, to save our communities, right? You have to address the root. Now, for the father, the root is his men because the men going off caused the rest to go off. Remember, leadership, right? Once upon a time when our women weren't in rulership and the men were, the men dropped the ball. All right, you had a lot of wicked women, but regardless of the wicked women, the men are still supposed to be men and still run things. The same way, regardless of Eve messing up, Adam was still supposed to do the right thing, but he didn't. He acquiesced to Eve. And this happens in our communities also, right? Because vagina has power, right? And so men have a tendency to acquiesce to the women sometimes, and that could be a problem. And it's no different in our communities. right? And so again, all of this, this monologue is necessary for the lesson to help, try to reach my people. All right. And so again, it's the top down structure, right? Women are the teachers and the passer on of culture. Women instill the values. Men pass on the values and pass on the cultures to the women, and then the women are supposed to take that and then run with it. But the problem is the culture and the values that our women are passing on to the children, they got thus from our enemies. They're not getting it from the men. They got it from our enemies. Our enemies programmed our women and then removed the men out of the way. And so now the women are passing on the culture and the values and the teachings and everything of our enemies. They're doing the will of our enemies, the men in power. You see, again, so us as men caused the nation to fall, and that was in the past. But right now, the women are keeping the nation on the bottom, constantly causing the nation to fall. You can't blame the men when the women are given the power. Women are given the control, the authority, right, over the children and over the family, and with the all of the benefits in society. The women are getting it and they're taking it and they're happily enjoying the benefits that they're receiving. But when things go wrong, they don't want any of the blame. They want all of the credit when it goes right and none of the blame, right? If you find a single mother, right? And her child graduated from college with honors and everything else, and go and tell that woman, yeah, you did a great job. She's going to say thank you. She's not going to say, yeah, well, the dad also, it wasn't just me. She's going to say, yeah, thank you. Try to give the dad some credit and watch the mom get upset and say, it was all me. He ain't have nothing to do with it. It was all me. Right? Now, the other side of that, you get the child who, messing up, just a complete F up in life and say, Mom, you did a bad job. What about the daddy? What about his dad? His dad, he was there that wasn't there, and his dad this and his dad that. It wasn't just me. You know it takes two, right? It takes two. Why you just blaming me? Why his daddy ain't getting none of the blame? Right? We all know this spirit. We know this energy that comes from many women, right? Not all, but many. And this is the problem, right? It's the always wanting credit and never want any blame, never want any responsibility, right? Never wanting to have to change anything or to be shown, hey, you're doing this wrong. We need to do this. And that is a major problem in our communities because the children are a reflection of the mothers. So then they become adults who are a reflection of the women that raised them. The parent that is there have a greater impact on who they become and who they are than the parent that isn't there. The parent with the most power and say so has more control over who they become, has more input in who they become. Again, so women recognize this and they'll take the credit when things work well, but when they go wrong, then they want to forget how this works. All right. So now, ladies, if you're still here, bravo. You got the spirit of the Most High on you, and you have the spirit and ability to be able to hear the truth and accept it and not to fight it and say, he must hate black women. He hate all women. He hate his mama. He must be gay because only gay men criticize women and hold women accountable. Don't be that woman. We know those women are out here and they are aplenty. Don't be them. Those are the ones that are going to perish. All right. That's why we're here to help separate the righteous daughters from the wicked ones. Again, first and foremost, this lesson is for my own daughters, right? Constantly trying to teach. All right. As much as I want to save you other women, I love my daughters more than you, but I love you too. So I deal with my sons and I deal, with my daughters also. I love you both. The Most High is dealing with his sons. He's correcting his sons and getting his sons in order. And if you daughters want to make it into the kingdom, y'all have to be corrected also. You can't just be without correction and still make it into the kingdom. That's a foolish expectation. And I don't want to just make it into the kingdom without our women. So here we are. All right. Here we are. All right. So, again, the understanding that leadership sets the tone. All right. Always has, always will. Now let's get into some scripture. I know this is tough because women, they struggle with being criticized. They're hearing that they're not great and perfect. See, men, we're used to being held accountable. We're used to being told that we're not cutting it, or we got to do better. We got to improve. We got to change, right? That we're not meeting expectations, right? We're used to that. A lot of women aren't used to that. See, a lot of we grew up playing sports or whatever, and in sports, you're used to having a coach and being told, "Are you messing up? You got to do this. You got to fix that. You're doing this wrong. You got to do this better." We're used to getting yelled at. We're used to someone talking strongly to us. But a lot of women, they don't get that, right? And then they end up having these boys who they then try to spare the harshness and the toughness because they themselves don't like it, because that's what women have a tendency to do, right? It's like for themselves, they're like, well, I don't like accountability, so I'm not gonna hold you accountable. I'm not gonna make you be accountable, son or daughter, because I myself don't like the accountability, and I'm gonna give unto you what I want in return. All right, I don't want to be a hypocrite in this way, and I don't want nobody to hold me accountable. I know how I feel, so I'm not gonna hold you accountable. I'm not gonna be hard on you and tough on you and demand more out of you and correct you because I don't want nobody doing it to me. I know how it feels. I don't like it, so I'm not gonna do it. And see, and this is how we get horribly raised children. It starts from the mindset of the mother. Don't be talking to my son like that. Don't be talking to my child like that. That's my child. But your child is effing up, lady. So what? That's still my child. Don't you? You see what I'm saying? Not me. If somebody's going off on my child because my child was out there illing in the world, and I'm listening, I'm like, well, what happened? Because that's the first thing I want to know. I'm not just coming right to the defensive unless you're getting physical with my kid, then that's different. But if you're just correcting behavior, I'm okay. Tell me what happened. Oh, for real? Oh, okay. And now they're getting it double. They about to get the double correction. You see? Because correction is godliness. Correction is good for character and is good for them. If you love them, you correct them. So with love comes correction. No, if you don't love somebody, you don't correct them. You let them do whatever they want to do. That's why the women who say, "Well, a real man doesn't care that a woman do this and do that." Those are the kind of women who never had men that loved them. So they never had men who corrected them because the men didn't love that in their lives, didn't love them enough to correct them, didn't love them enough to give them boundaries, didn't love them enough to say, don't do that. This ain't cool. I don't like that. They just let them do whatever because they were in it for a good time, not a long time. But a lot of women, again, they don't understand that those men who are just letting them do whatever, who act like they don't care, they don't care. They're not, those aren't real men. Those are the men who decided you aren't worth keeping. They don't want you like that. So they're not pouring into you, right? They're not trying to shape you and mold you. They don't want you to be better because they don't plan on staying with you anyway. The people who love you hold you to task. The people who love you hold you accountable. The people who love you try to force you to change and be better. Not the people that pander to you and tell you that you're all good and you're not at fault for nothing. You got to learn how to see the true enemy. Stop hating the people that love you and loving the people that hate you. Proverbs 29. Yeah, this is going to be a long one. This is all this monologue, but this is going to be long. This is going to be at least a two-part series. All right. So Proverbs 29, verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. We can see the crisis of wicked rulership. Look at our country, right? Look at how the nation is suffering under the current rulership. And you can see it. You can see the state of the country. And what does it make you do? It makes you look up. It makes you look to the people in power and saying, this is because of the president and the government. And right? We can see, we know that the state of our country, is due to the leadership. So how come we can't see it in our communities? How come we can't look at the state of our community and say it's the leadership? Well, who is the leadership? That should be an easy answer. All right. All right. The ones who fight for the leadership while saying they want, men to be leaders, but they want the perks of leadership, but not the responsibilities that come with it. They don't want to be the ones, they don't want to be like the captain who goes down with the ship. All right. They don't want the buck to stop with them. They want to be able to pass the buck to somebody else. Oh, that ain't me. No look pass. All right. So again, we understand this. in this sense. All right, so let's go to Ecclesiastes. All right, when there's a reason why coaches get get fired when a team is struggling or a team isn't meeting expectations or a team is constantly failing. All right, time for a new coach. Can't keep the same coach and expect better results. We got to get a new coach. We got to get someone in here who can do a better job. Well, what if it's the players? Well, the players are a reflection of the coach. If the coach is shitty, so will the players be. If the coach ain't got a good plan, the players won't. All right. Again, the players become an extension of the coach. The players take on the the personality of their coach. All right. And so it goes in a household. The children take on the personality of whoever's the head. So even if a father is there, if mama is overbearing, if mama is the ruler in the house, if mama got all the say so, if mama's voice have all the weight, then it's going to be mama who has the biggest influence. All right? Because, people acquiesce to power. Who has the most power? That's who I'm listening to. Right? That's whose opinion has the most weight to me. Right? Again, we can understand this under all of these other circumstances, but then we try not to apply it when it comes to our communities, to our people, and our modern failures. Yes, men, we are at fault for historically how we end up getting here to the point where we were cursed to experience this. All right, but since the curses, who's keeping us here? All right, we got to address that. The Father is addressing the men spiritually through the word. All right, letting us know, take responsibility. You got into the situation you're in. It was you, your fault. So I completely understand. I have been addressed. The men, we are constantly addressed when we read this word because this word is primarily to men. All right, it's primarily to the men of Israel. All right, all of these instructions is primarily to the men of Israel. Right, so we get it constantly. And so when it's the rare occasion for the women to get it, you got to be able to swallow it. All right. So Ecclesiastes 10, verse 16. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning. All right. That's critical because what is this telling you? It's telling you that as goes the leadership, so goes the people. And that if you got childlike or immature or ignorant or unwise or undisciplined, right? Leadership, the people are screwed. If you got people who care more about themselves than the people are screwed. And unfortunately, our women are very selfish. You'll hear, constantly, women, our women will talk about the men. Oh, the men, they can barely read, and the men, they ain't got educations, and the men this, and the men that. Right? Then you turn around and say, but whose fault is it? Well, that's men. It's their fault. They got to be better. They got to be better men. I can't teach a man. I can't do a man. Right? And you'll see these women who will boast of their master's degrees or I got a PhD. Right? They'll boast about degrees, and these be the same women whose sons can't read. They put all of this time and effort into themselves and not into their sons. Why? Because they hate their sons. They don't love them. So the sons get left behind. In the same way that because we are under our enemy's control, listen to me very carefully. We as a people get the short end of the stick because they don't care about us, so they don't pour into us. Look at what they do to their communities versus ours. Look at the resources they put in their communities, and look how our communities are deprived. Look at what they would do for themselves but won't do for us. It's because they hate us. And so they do all of these things for themselves and deprive us, withhold from us, don't pour into us. You get where I'm going here? The same thing with the women. They do for themselves. They pour into themselves. They build themselves up. They make sure their makeup, their wigs, their hair, all of that stuff is cared for, and their children be going without. Their children be lacking because they don't care about the children, especially the sons. They try to build up their daughters and make their daughters their mini thems and help give them a leg up in life. But their inner hate for men causes them to secretly even hate their sons and do their sons a disservice. So then their sons become men who other women complain about. But women all want control of the children, though. They don't want dad to have no say so, but they want men to be men, but they don't want men to have any input on the children. They just want boys to just know how to be men automatically. They just want boys to learn manhood all on their own, right? And so, again, here is the issue. Destruction comes to a people with this type of leadership. Look at us. Look at us. We are the perfect example of a crisis of leadership. All right. And I've said it before, like there are a lot of similarities between our women and white supremacists because, again, that's who has the power, right? And so women, they cling to power. They respect power. So those are the men that they respect. Those are the men who they listen to. Those are the men whose opinions and authority they respect and bend the knee to. And so those are the men whose values they pass on, whose spirits they take on, right? They take on the spirits of those men because that's who they look up to. And then they pass that to the children. So the same hatred that these men have for black boys and black men, the women develop it. That's where they get it from. They're getting that hatred for black boys and men from white supremacy. It is the number one feature of white supremacy is the hatred of quote unquote Israelite black men, Israelite men. All right. And the suppression and oppression of the men, not the women. You want to destroy the people, you got to keep the men from rising. You got to remove the men so that you can control the women. The women can be easily controlled. Again, it's the Adam and Eve principle. Eve had to be isolated. When she was away from Adam, she was able to be corrupted and destroyed. Get the women away from the men, make the women not want the men and the men not want the women, right? This is where we're up against. We are fighting a spiritual battle. You got to recognize it in order to fight it. And you can't deny the truth because you don't like how it sounds. All right. Going to the hospital and them detecting cancer in you, you know, it doesn't benefit you to say, I don't want to hear the results. No, 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 no. Don't tell me, don't tell me. I don't want to know the results of the test. You're not going to get better because you don't want to hear it. You're still going to, it's still going to run its course. Now, if you acknowledge it and do something about it early enough, you got a fighting chance. But the longer you let it go, the more guaranteed the negative outcome. And that's exactly what we're dealing with. All right. Our women have to stop fighting hearing the diagnosis. Treatment can't begin until you accept the diagnosis. All right. So Isaiah 9 and 16. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. All right. The leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. See, the leaders of our people right now are the women, and the women are causing us to err. And those who are led of the women are destroyed. The scriptures are true. All right. And we're all being led by our enemies, by our oppressors. So we are being destroyed, you know, on different levels. All right. They create our ghettos and our impoverished circumstances. All right. They, you know, keep us out of jobs, imprison us, and make us felons and make it hard for us to get a job. And then they turn around and say, look at you. There's something wrong with you. You're deficient because of XYZ. When they know what they have done to us, and our women do the same thing. They help to destroy the men, handicap the men, and then say something is wrong with you men. Y'all just naturally effed up. They will completely disregard their hand. They'll act like they had nothing to do with it and that there's just something wrong with the men. That's the same way white supremacists act. They destroy us, create our circumstances, and then look at us and wave the finger and say, look at y'all, fatherless homes. They won't talk about how they created fatherlessness. Look at y'all, they ain't working. They won't talk about how they're responsible. They won't talk about how they're responsible, you know what I'm saying, for the ghettos and our poverty. They'll just blame us for it and say it's just a problem with us. We're just naturally degenerate. And you notice how our women say the same thing. And again, if this doesn't apply to you, sister, then let it fly. You know that there are many women out there that think like this and talk like this. So if it ain't you, don't take it personally as if I'm talking to you and about you specifically. Know that I'm talking about those women who it apply to. All right. So if it doesn't apply, then let it fly. All right. So, whether it's a nation or a family, the same principle applies. The top molds the bottom. Coaches mold their teams. CEOs mold their companies. Kings mold their nations. And so-called spiritual leaders mold their flocks. You take on the characteristics and identity of your spiritual leaders. That's why the father said that the shepherds are going to be destroyed and those that follow them because they become one and the same. They be blind leaders of the blind, right? And what happens? The blind lead the blind, then they shall both fall into a ditch. All right. And right now, we have the blind leading the blind. And so, us as a nation, we're going into a ditch. All right. That's why you got to be careful who you follow. You might take on their characteristics, their spirit, their energy. All right. Another bad thing about being in a camp, right, is that you have to accept the leadership and the rulership and whatever they're teaching, whatever they're talking about in order to be down. So you take on the energy of those at the top. If you join a gang, right, you're brand new, right? You're brand new. You could have came from out of state. Now you new in this area. Now you join in the local gang. You ain't been here. You don't know nothing about the history, but you got to take on all of the enemies of the gang. You got to take on the mindset. Everybody they don't like, you got to not like them too. You hate them. You have no experience with them, but now you hate them. All their colors, oh yeah, now you love them. You love those colors. You love their style of dress, right? You love the lingo. You love the activities, the things they get up to, right? All the doctrines, all the teachings, everything they pass down, you embody it, you take it in and you embody it, right? It's no different. It's no different in our families, in nationhood, and so forth. It's exactly the same, right? So the Most High, He gave us righteous leaders like Moses, King David, and most importantly, He gave us His Son Yahawah. And those who truly follow Yahawah reflect His Spirit and the Spirit of our Father. But when the wicked leaders take over, right? When the men are feminized and the women are glorified and masculinized, right? What we get is rebellious, backwards people. We get a topsy-turvy, upside down society. All right. We get something that's unnatural and contrary to the design of the Most High, which means what? Anything that's operating counter to the design of the Most High is going to be in chaos. It's going to be destined to be destroyed, right? We know this. So we have to see and understand what we're looking at when we're looking at the failures of our nation. All right. So, like I mentioned before, right, about our enemies and us going into captivity, how we became a reflection of our enemies, right? Right. Remember, baby daddyism started from white men in slavery. They were the inventors of baby daddyism. Baby daddy culture started with them. They started fatherlessness among our communities. All of these things that we get now, the degenerate behaviors, we all got it from them. That's where it came from. See, it's the top down mentality. It's the top down reality. All right. So let's go to Lamentations 5, verse 8. Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doth deliver us out of their hand. Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doth deliver us out of their hands. These other people who are ruling over us, they were meant to be servants, but yet they're ruling over us. And our circumstances that we're in right now are a result of their rulership. So what did they do? They they made our community, our families topsy-turvy. They brought the men down and they lifted the women up, right? A woman is a female servant. They created to be a servant to man. Even though they don't like to hear it, that's what they were created for. All right. And now our women are the servants who are ruling over us men and over the families, over the nation, over the communities. All right. And any and all male authority, they're going to fight it. They hate it off the rip and they're going to fight it. All right. So let's go to Jeremiah 2, verse 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? And see, this is, it highlights our fall as a nation into becoming perpetual servants, constantly being made servants. And see, it didn't just stop with slavery. Again, we became slaves to our women, fellas. Our enemies made us subservient and slaves to the women. So we have been spoiled. We are now homeborn slaves, meaning we are being created in our homes to be slaves because our women are taking, the culture and the directive from our enemies, and they are raising the children according to that. Our enemies want the children destroyed, especially the male children, right? As we know has always been the case throughout history. Destroy the male children, kill the male children, right? That never happened with the women, with the girls, with the female children. All right. It's always been, a war on the men, the male children. All right. And so now we are homeborn slaves. We are raised to be slaves. We are raised to be docile. We are raised to be subservient by the women because the women want rulership. The women don't want men that'll raise up against them, right? So they uh, put a effeminate, weak spirit in the boys, the same way our enemies do. See, they don't want us to rise up against them, to be strong and overtake them and take them out of power. So they program in us and instill in us a weak, uh, docile spirit to make sure we never rise up and overtake them, to make sure they never lose their position of authority and power. The women learn to do this also. Where do they learn to do it from? You already know, right? I just walked you through it. You see, that's what happens. And many women are doing this even without consciously knowing this is what they're doing, but this is what they're doing. They're just running the programming. All right. Let's get mm, nah, I don't need that. So, slavery didn't just chain our bodies. It broke our minds, right? We became mentally destroyed, spiritually destroyed. And that spiritual breaking and destroying happens still in our families. Little boys go through a process of being broken by their mothers. Think about it. Women, how can you expect your boys to become men that are strong and fight the power and fight the system and everything else when you raise them to fear women, to bow down to women, to bow down to your power, to your authority. And yet you think they're going to become men, they're going to be able to get out here and fight against other men. See, women of other nations, they're raising pit bulls and Rottweilers and cane corsos and everything else, right? And our women, are raising chihuahuas and then turn around and saying, why aren't you protecting us? Why aren't you protecting me, Chihuahua? A Chihuahua isn't bred and raised to be a protector dog. He's not a protector breed. It's not bred for that. Modern black men are not bred for that. All right? They're not raised for that. We're raised to be soft marshmallows that bow down to female authority, right? That they train us. Listen, in white supremacy, what did they do? They programmed us to accept their harsh treatment and to never retaliate or reciprocate, right? They wanted to be able to hit us, to kill us, to harm us, to grape us, to do all of these horrible things to us and never worry about us raising up. They wanted to never worry about repercussions, consequences, right? So they programmed us to be weak, to accept whatever they dish out. Our women did the same thing. They use programming like no matter what a woman does, you never hit her back. You should never hit a woman no matter what she does. They don't have the same programming that they should never hit a man, that they should respect a man no matter what. They don't have that. We are taught that we're supposed to respect women no matter what, just for them being women. Men, we don't need to be respected. We have to earn it, we have to deserve it, and we have to be lucky if we get it. They're just valuable from birth. We don't have any value. Our value is in what we can do for them. Does this sound familiar to white supremacists, to racists? Our value is in our utility. What can we do for them? We aren't just naturally valuable. We aren't inherently valuable. We don't deserve respect just because of being human or being people and right being men or being women. No, it's the same thing. I'm telling you, you got to see it this way. This is where it comes from. You got to see the root, the cause, the genesis, the origin of the thing. All right. So, our enemies, they didn't just beat us, they reprogrammed us. They destroyed our patriarchal system and they made the black man a byword, right? The Israelite man a byword and the Israelite woman their weapon of mass destruction. It was evil genius. So we now look, act, and think like the Gentiles that led us. We now look, think, and act like the women who are leading us. We're a reflection of our captors, not our creator. We are a reflection of our women in power, not our God. And I say we, as in the nation as a whole, because not me, buddy. You know what I mean? So, there's we are under the curse of feminine rule. It was never supposed to be this way. This is unnatural. The same way as a man being with a man and a woman, it's unnatural. It's not the Most High's desire. It's not the Most High's way, right? That's why life can't come from those unions because it's not meant to be. It's not meant to continue. He didn't set it up to where they can get together and procreate and have offspring and keep the people going. All right. In the same way, when our setup in our communities is unnatural, so it's designed to fail this way. It's never meant to succeed. We can never succeed with the women being at the forefront. The Most High won't let it work that way. He won't let it happen because it's not His way. So He ain't gonna let the contrary way work. Remember, Satan is the god of this world. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So if Satan is the god of this world and the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, it all should make sense. Everything that we see, it all should make sense, right? So now knowing this, you got to break out of it. You got to know that you're being ruled over by Satan, that through these people, our enemies, Satan is ruling over you. You have been taught by Satan. All of your programming, everything that you know, think, feel, and believe, ladies, came from Satan. Your programming is Satan's programming. Again, we know the Father allowed this to happen, but understand where, that Satan, is the left-hand side programming, not righteous programming. This is the left-hand side, wicked programming that was allowed to be instituted for our destruction. So yes, you became an instrument of our destruction as a people. Accept this truth and and benefit from what comes with this knowledge, because knowledge is power, right? So let's go to Isaiah 3, verse 12. Again, the curse of feminine rule. All right. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Ladies, this is you. Maybe not you personally, but you as in a gender. All right. The Israelite woman as a whole, as a collective, right, are the rulers of our people. All right. Remember how when we were in Roman captivity, the Romans set up the the Edomites to rule over us, to be under them, but over us. This is what the enemy always does, right? They go in Africa, they did the same thing, right, with the Fulanis and the houses and all of those other people. I can't remember all of their names and so forth because I don't care that much. But that's what he did. That's what they go. They go into places and they take down the power that's existing there and they plant their own uh power. They plant someone there who's going to do their bidding. That's what they do. All right. This is what they've always done. We're going to take down these people and we're going to put you in power, right? And you report to us and they will report to you. You'll be the go-between for us with them. This is what they did with us, ladies. You got to see it. That's what the enemy did. It's the same old thing. They don't reinvent the wheel. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? They lifted you up above us, all right, to be the Edomites, right? To be that controlled power that they can use to keep us in check and to destroy us so that they don't got to worry about any threat or any uprising happening that can threaten their standing, that can threaten their power, their seat of authority. They're using you to maintain their own power. And then when they're done using you or when you're no longer of any benefit, they will destroy you or throw you away. That's always the way. That's always the play. All right, let's go to Jeremiah 31. But our women don't know this. And so, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And so a lot of our women are willing participants in this agenda because they benefit from it at the moment. All right. But as soon as they don't benefit no more, and then they start and they lose it and they start to get destroyed, they get thrown away, then they're going to turn to the men and say that it's our job, to forgive them and to help them, right? That real men won't hold them accountable for their part, right? They go turn and do to us what the Hispanics are doing right now, right? They tried to side with white supremacy. It didn't work out for them. And now they're turning to us saying, help us, please. Why aren't you standing with us? Yeah, we try to side with them against you. But look what they did. They turned on us. It didn't work out. So now you should stand with us. You should forgive us. You should be better people and support us. The women are going to do the same thing. I'm telling you, it's the same spirit. It's the same spirit. You got to learn to see it and peep it. This is a spiritual thing. This is the reason why I can call it like this, right? So again, Jeremiah 31, verse 22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahawah hath created a new thing in the earth. All right. Because of our backsliding as a nation, the Most High says, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to change things up. I'm going to punish. This is a punishment. This new thing is a punishment. A woman shall compass a man. That's a punishment. All right. That was never how he wanted things to be. And it's not how he was going to allow them to remain. It was meant to punish us. to destroy us as a people for disobedience because he wasn't going to let us succeed outside of his order, outside of his structure. Again, that's the reason why our communities fail because it's outside of his order. It's outside of his structure. It's destined to fall. It has no hope, no chance of succeeding. None. All right? So make no mistake. When the father said women rule over them, it wasn't a compliment. All right? It was a rebuke. It was to our shame. So today, that rebuke is louder than ever because the Father is putting it in my spirit and the spirits of other brothers to speak out and to speak against this, knowing our women don't like it, but He doesn't care. Our Father's no respecter of persons. He's not here to be liked and to try to coddle people's feelings and desires to dodge accountability. He is causing a reckoning where we're having to acknowledge and to face our flaws and our issues, the truth, and to deal with them head on. You can't turn your back on what the truth is and think it's just going to disappear because you try not to acknowledge it. You don't want to talk about it. It doesn't just go away. It gets worse. All right? So in our community, women are exalted, right? They're above correction. The black woman is God mentality, right? And God is infallible. God can't be questioned, right? God can't be corrected. How dare you try to correct me? Don't you know I'm God? That's their mentality. That's the spirit they have on them. Is I should be able to criticize you, but you should never criticize me. I should check you, but you should never check me. I should have standards and boundaries that I place on you, but you should never have standards and boundaries that you place on me, right? I should be able to put my hands on you and do whatever I want to you, but there's never any justification for you doing the same to me, right? Again, you want to find out who's in power, find out who you can't criticize. You can't criticize the black woman. Even the weak beta manginas are going to come rushing to their aid if if you dare try to criticize them. If you do anything except praise them, watch how they act. See, they want to be worshiped. That's satanic. That's they say that wicked satanic spirit. Satan wanting to be worshipped, right? Eve wanting to be more than what she was. She wasn't happy with what she was. She wasn't happy with her station that she was given. And Satan came along and convinced her that there was more for her, that it didn't have to be that way, and it was to her detriment. It was to the detriment of us all, right? So again, our women they're never wrong, all right? They're never wrong. They believe this. I just talked to them, asked them. They think that they're never wrong. They think no matter what happens, everything is always the man's fault. Always. No matter what. Always. They are never at fault. And they're praised for independence, for rebellion, for loudness, and for lust. Meanwhile, the men are blamed, mocked, shamed, guilted, insulted, and weakened. And the women don't realize that this is to their own detriment. All right. They don't understand that times are going to come when, they're going to be prey out here. And they're only going to be as safe as the men in the community. They're only going to be as safe as the men who care about them. But they've spent all their time distancing themselves from men, hating the men, burning the bridges, raising chihuahuas while the women of the other nation were raising lions and tigers and bears and ferocious, creatures, and then they're going to expect their men to go out and protect them out here in the wild, right? And to prevail and to keep them safe when they have no experience and no spirit of fight because the fight was beaten out of them, taken out of them by all the mama, the female teachers, surrounded by women, all their youth, being weakened and being told that masculinity was bad. It's wrong. All their natural inclinations as a boy was wrong. Fight against it. It ain't good. You no good. Just by being a boy, by being a man, you're in the wrong and you're bad and you're this and you're that. So then you make them not want to be boys and not want to be men and not want to be strong and not want to be masculine and not want to be protector or provider or teacher or nothing of that nature. And see, the women don't care because the men being weak is to their benefit right now. But when society collapses, they're going to realize that their only defense is going to be the men. And that they're going to look around and find all of these weak men who are unable, incapable of defending them because of their own programming, how they program the men. And then the men who are strong aren't going to help them because they spend all their time hating them. They burned the bridges with the strong men, the masculine men who fought the programming, who fought being a simp, who removed the simp chip. Those men are awake and they're despising these women because the women are despising them. See, they are rightfully hating those who hate them. And so they're not going to be there and protect the women in that time. And women are already starting to experience this now. Why are men not protecting us? Right? It was a whole bunch of men out there and nobody helped me. This is their own creation, but they're not going to take responsibility. They're going to say, what's wrong with the men? The men aren't men. They're going to ignore that they are the ones who program the men to be what they are, to be how they are, right? So we're in a full-on matriarchy, right? And the product of it, all right, which is what? A soft generation of boys and a wild pack of disorderly, unteachable girls, broken homes, criminal sons, masculine daughters, right? The nation is flipped upside down, fam, right? And so because the women are given all the control, right, and able to distance the father from the children, mothers mold the men and the monsters. The same men they complain about talking about we don't feel safe every 5.5 hours, right? And again, it's their own doing. And see, this is the most high's punishment to the women for the women being in power, for the women destroying the men. The men The women raise their own oppressors. They raise their own killers. They raise their own problems. You see what I'm saying? The women put themselves in a prison. They did it to themselves and don't realize it. See, they were so happy to have this power given to them by the enemy. They didn't realize that they were being handed the keys to destroy themselves. They start building their own prisons. They start building and creating and programming their own executioners, their oppressors, and so forth. They did it to themselves, but you can't get them to see this and to take accountability for this. They got to pass the buck. It's not in them to say, you know what, man, look what we did. I can see how me trying to tell my son, well, I'm mama, and you don't ever talk back to your mama, and blah blah blah, and it raised the son to be weak, and now he's a man, and now she wants protection, and he ain't built for it. Now she wants him to be a man who ain't never have his dad around to teach him because mama ran dad off. But she just expects him to be a dad. She doesn't say, you know what? I messed up. Man, if I wouldn't have ran this dad off, he would have had a male influence. Man, if I wouldn't have raised my son to be a punk and to bow down to female power and authority all the time, man, he wouldn't be this weak. She'll never take accountability and see that it was her doing. That's bad leadership, right? Bad leaders pass the buck. Great leadership takes accountability and says, you know what, that's my fault. That's my fault, even when it wasn't. Nope, that's my fault. And see, that's what they want from men. When they're talking about be leaders, they talking about take responsibility for everything that's going wrong, even when it ain't. Admit being wrong, even when you're not. All right. Second Ezra chapter 5, verse 8. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be often sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. This is happening in the absence of fathers, right? This is the absence of fathers, the absence of male authority. Left to their own devices, women being given too much power and being in control, this is what they would do. All right. This is what they would do. And this is what they have done. And this is what they are doing. All right. So, what happens when rebellious women raise sons without righteous male order? You get broken boys. What happens when those same women raise daughters? You get carbon copies. Then what do you get? A result? Then you get a system that's now working on autopilot. Evil genius. All right. The adult version of a child's character is the reflection of the parent's spirituality, their spiritual nature, their spiritual walk, or lack thereof. So culture, like I said before, is passed down by mothers. Men establish culture, women pass it on. That's how it's supposed to go. Father being in the house with the mother, the father is supposed to establish the culture. And the women are supposed to pass it on to the children and enforce it with the children, instill it in them. So what our culture is a result of the women, of what the women have passed on to the children. Where did they get it from? It didn't come from black men. They got this from our enemies. See? So culture is passed down by mothers, right? Not the laws of Yahawah. That's the man's job, all right? But culture, behavior, and spirit, see, that comes from the household's matriarch, right? The woman of the house, the household's queen, so to speak. So if the queen is Jezebel, the children are going to serve Baal, period. All right? There's no other way to sugarcoat it. And we have come to the time in our Father's timeline when it's time to hold women accountable. He has been holding his men accountable. He has been bringing us to task, holding us to the fire, and transforming us. But because he loves his daughters also, they can't make it into the kingdom without getting chastisement, without getting correction, without changing. They got to transform. They got to be renewed in their minds. They have to be shown their errors, their weaknesses, right? And then do something about them. See, it ain't just the men who have to change. The women have to also. So if you want to make it into the kingdom, you got to hear stuff like this. You got to listen to this. You got to be able to stomach this. You got to be able to not fight against it when you hear it. Search yourself. Admit the truth because lying doesn't help you. Again, back to the cancer analogy. If you have cancer in you, it doesn't go away because you lie about the cancer, because you don't want to face it, because it makes you feel bad to think about it. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't get you healthy. It doesn't heal you. You are being destroyed by your own ignorant desire to be delusional. All right. So Micah chapter 7, verse 5. Trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. All right. See, because again, we were constantly warned about the wickedness of a woman, giving any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman. Or women don't want to recognize that, they of themselves are wicked. But they'll say, well, it's because of man. Anytime a woman does something bad, well, it's a man's fault. Well, so what man? What did he do? What did he do? Because everything that they do that's wrong, it wasn't because of them. It's because of something some man did, right? It was some man's fault. All right. But Father let us know that women are a great source of wickedness all on their own, right? And so we're told to keep our mouths from them, meaning don't tell them your secrets. And many men are learning that now. What happens when you tell these women your secrets? They weaponize them against you. All right. You got to treat them as if one day they're going to be an enemy, right? There's a lot of things about myself my wife don't know because one day she could become my enemy. Everything's good now, but what about if we come into a season where it's not good anymore? I know the nature of women, so I'm smart enough to not allow my wife to know the things about me that I wouldn't want my enemy to know. Whatever you wouldn't tell your enemy, don't tell your wife. Don't tell your woman, fellas. You better be smart enough to take that into account. For the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. All right. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Even the women of his own house is the people of their own house. All right. And we got to remember this. Our major contention is within our own communities, is within our own families. All right, let's get Isaiah 32, verse 9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. He's talking to his daughters. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail the old way. The gathering shall not come. Tremble, ye women that are at ease. Be troubled, ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare. What does that mean? Right? He's talking about how he's going to expose the truth about his daughters. This is what's happening even in this lesson. We're talking about the truth. We're not covering up the sins of his daughters. We're pouring it out into the open. You see all over social media, all of these podcasts that are dedicated to talking about female behavior or black women behavior. This is the Most High fulfilling his word. He's stripping them. He's making them bare before the world. He says, and gird sackcloth upon your loins, meaning be humbled. He's humbling them, right? Mourn. He's about to bring them into a state of mourning, taking away all of their government assistance, all the, losing their jobs, homelessness, right? Living in the cars, right? All of these things, this is what he's doing. This is the fulfillment of his word, of his scriptures, right? They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. All right. Meaning they're going to cry for the government assistance, the teats, right? That's I mean you being fed by somebody. Somebody is feeding you. Somebody is taking care of you. All right. They're going to cry out for the men to take care of them, to cry out for the government to take care of. See, that's what's happening right now. Oh, I need a man who makes six figures. Oh, man, I need to provide a man. Right? Because what they're not telling, because they're on one hand, they want to boast about degrees and being the most educated, but on the other hand, see, they're struggling out here. They're in a crisis. They're in trouble. They need help, but they don't have the spirit to ask for help, to say, you know what, I'm doing bad and we need your help, men, because they spend so much time hating the men, right? Their egos won't allow them to now say, you know what, we messed up. We're sorry. Please help us. So they're trying to disguise their need and their desperation as standards. Oh, I just got high standards. Oh, I ain't going 50-50. A man got to do X, Y, Z. I just got high standards. I know my worth. That's why how they're trying to hide and disguise their desperation and their need for help. They're suffering out here. And those who aren't surely will in due time. Just wait. This is the Most High's plan. This is his promise. This is his word. And you know his word that goeth forth, it must accomplish what it was sent to do. It cannot return to him void. All right. So we've spent years blaming the men. And there are a lot of things that men are to be blamed for. And for the things that we are to be blamed for, we rightfully deserve the blame. Right. But we weren't doing the same for the women. All right. But we're in the time of judgment now. And the Father is revealing everything. If the leaders of the home are out of order, so is the house out of order. The children are going to be out of order. They will become adults that are out of order. And many of these mothers, these daughters of Zion, they're guilty of leading Israel into dysfunction and keeping Israel into dysfunction. Because if we try to come along and talk about the dysfunction and try to correct the dysfunction and pull our people out of dysfunction, our women are going to arm up. They're going to weapon up, right? They're ready to go to the mattresses, meaning go to war. They're going to go to war against dysfunction, because a war on dysfunction is a war on them. That's how they see it. The two aren't separate. All right. So, but they don't want correction though. They want praise. They want credit, no blame, no accountability. And those type of women, those type of daughters will not be accepted by the Most High. Those will be the throwaways. That's why this lesson is critically important. All right. So guess what? The time of praise is over though. And they can see it, they can sense it. The same way the time of the Gentiles is over, and these Gentiles, they can see it, they can sense it, and they're stressed out, and their anger, and their bitterness against us is rising because they know it. The same thing is happening in our women. They know their time is over. That great ride they had, it's over. And they hate what's coming next. They hate what's to follow. So they are at the tail end of their cushy little ride, and it's about to come to a stop. And they're trying to keep it going. They're trying to keep it spinning for as long as possible before it's finally over. They know it's going to be over. They're just trying to hold on for as long as possible before it is what it is. Right? So, whose voices or whose voice are you echoing? All right? Is what you got to ask yourself. Let's go to John 10, verse 27. Yahawah says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." All right. "And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand." This is critical. This is why you want to be careful of who you follow, who you listen to, whose spirit is passed on to you, because you do become a product of your teachers. All right. Who's teaching you? All right. Whose spirit are you drinking from? I drink from Yahawah Shai. How about you? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16. "For who hath known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of a Mashiach," because that's who we look up to. So we have his mind. We have his spirit, because that's who we honor. That's who we reverence. That's who we worship. That's who we love, respect, and look up to. Who you look up to, who you respect, that's whose spirit and mind you will adopt. And you know them by their fruits. You know who someone looks up to based off of their character, right? Do they look up to Yahawah Shai, or do they look up to Satan? You know them by their fruits, bottom line. All right. So again, we take on the mind of who we follow. If you follow Yahawah Shai, you'll begin to reflect him. If you follow social media, feminism, the culture, or your oppressors, you'll reflect them. It's the reason why, we have something that we all refer to as the sisterhood. It's like the beehive, the toxic sisterhood of life losers. All right. And they get online, and they all get online spewing this stupid crap, and they just keep recruiting more and more dumb women, because these women, they look up to these women, and so they take on the minds of these women. And so these women who have never had any bad um, or traumatic experiences with men, they start to act as if they did, because they start to take on the spirit of these women who they look up to. These women, these other women's traumas become their own traumas. They embody them. They take them on as if it happened to them. These other women's experiences become their own. It's like it happened to them. And then before you know it, what's going to happen? These things will happen to them eventually. All right. Because they call it upon themselves. It's like speaking about death all the time, and then you get killed. It's like, music and death music. They constantly rap about death and killing, and then wonder why, the most dangerous profession is being a rapper, and they're constantly surrounded by murder and death. Because all you rap about is murder and death. When all you talk about is men ain't no good, guess what you're gonna get? Nothing but no good men. When all you talk about is men are dangerous, guess what you're gonna get? Nothing but dangerous men. You're calling it upon you, and don't even realize how this works, right? Because what's in your mind, you're manifesting. You're calling to yourself. All right, you're planting these seeds. These are the seeds being planted. Remember, reaping and sowing. What are you planting? Remember, the mind is like the field. What's being planted in your mind? That's the harvest you're going to reap. You're planting seeds of men are no good, men ain't shit, men ain't shit, men ain't this, men ain't that, men are dangerous, men is this. That's what you're going to get in life. Those are the seeds that are going to sprout up and produce in your life. And then you're going to turn around and blame men for for your own harvest, for your garden. That's your garden, lady. Take accountability, right? That's the result of your doing, not me, not all men at large, right? But good luck getting them to take accountability, right? So right now, most of our people reflect the world, and it's killing us. We need the mind of our King and our Father. We need to return to the order of Yahawah Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. That's our only hope. That's where the healing resides. See, but first, we have to first acknowledge our offenses. We have to acknowledge our wrongs. We have to take accountability. He will deny us healing without accountability first. He's not going to operate on you without the acknowledgement of the problem first. All right. So again, this isn't about hate. It's about healing. This isn't the talk of a man that hates black women, that hates Israelite women. This is what love sounds like. You just don't know it because you've been taught that love is something else. You've been taught that pandering is love. Letting you do whatever you want, that's love. Letting you say whatever you want to say, that's love. Allowing you to remain in dysfunction and never correcting you, that's love. No, that's hate. That's a sure road to destruction. And anybody who lets you remain on it, they hate you. All right. So this isn't about tearing down our women and tearing down our sisters. The same way in which 99% of my lessons and videos and critiques and criticisms about my brothers and to my brothers are not about tearing them down. You know, that 1% of my videos that's speaking and correcting the women, it's about identifying the cancer. It's about love, right? So we can heal the body. So Yahweh Shai is our great physician. But even the best doctor has to diagnose the issue before prescribing the cure, before operating. And right now, our issue is upside down order. We live in bizarro world. We have a feminine centered culture and a refusal to hold women accountable. But if we return to righteous order, if the men lead in truth and the women repent and follow, we can be restored. That's the path to restoration. But if not, judgment is surely coming, and it's going to be fierce. And you're not going to get away by saying, "But I didn't know," or "I'm just a girl," or "But what about the men?" Or "It's all because of the." He ain't going to hear none of that. You're not going to be able to utilize your delusional accountability, dodging excuses with the Most High. It's not going to be accepted. I'm just warning you right now. All right. So that's the conclusion of part one. Stay tuned for part two. Look at that, 144 on the dot again. I just happened to look down at my phone to see how long this lesson has been. All right. Wow. All right. Again, a spiritual confirmation that this lesson was through the Holy Spirit, that the Most High wants this lesson to go forth. Now, whether or not you can receive it, that's also of the Most High, right? If he hardens your mind, that's for your destruction. If he gives you, the ability to see, to hear, that's for your benefit. But if he blinds you and if he makes you deaf to this truth, then his plan is to destroy you. If hearing this, you get angered and upset and you want to fight against it, that's the spirit in you fighting the truth. That means the Most High wants to destroy you, and he's probably gonna. So you might, just want to prepare, for doom and for the worst. If you have no plan on repenting, on changing, your destruction is near. All right. And I suggest if you love, anybody, if you have children, to send the children to their fathers, right? Because you're going to be destroyed. Don't let them be destroyed with you. All right. So I will see you guys on the next one. Yahweh willing. All praise, honor, and glory belongs to our Father Yahawah in the name of our beloved King Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Each one, reach one. Y'all know the drill. Shalom.